We have made it back to another Monday morning together. How are you? Hello from Courageous in Creation. I'm Leanna, waiting for Cynthia and April to join this morning. I'm on Long Island and I'm loving this fall weather. It feels so good. So interested in how you're feeling about it. And always thanking you for being part of our courageous community. We're going to have April joining us, obviously, and Cynthia, and then we have somebody really space with this morning, and just really excited to welcome her. Good morning, my ladies. Here we are. Hi. Happy Monday.
Good morning.
I was just telling everybody how we're loving this fall weather and how beautiful it feels. It's invigorating.
Yes. I have the window.
Yes.
Like.
Let all the good stuff in. Good morning. Thank you for joining us. Going to be looking for our guest to join us in a moment. Oh, there she is. So before I bring her on, just hang in there with me for a hot second, Adina. I felt super compelled to have this beautiful light in the world join us this morning because she has such a powerful story to share and a powerful story that she is living in. And at the expense of sounding morbid, you know, there's an expiration date, right, that we all have looming out there. And sometimes we don't really think about that, right? Because it's probably very, very far away. But what if that countdown clock was set up right in front of your face and it read a year, 2 years, 3 years? That is exactly what Adina Perullo is experiencing in her life. And rather than letting it be something that holds her back from living, it is something that propels her into contribution, joy, love, advocacy, being a voice, love over fear. And she just has so many powerful things to share with us this morning about choice and perspective. And it is an absolute honor to welcome Miss Adina.
Hi.
Hello, love. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I just want to introduce Cynthia and April to you since we all haven't met before. April will probably be popping in and out based on service. We're in Mercury retrograde.
Same for me because you're slightly pixelated. And I think that's on my end because my house service is terrible.
All right. So we're all just going to go with it,
Yeah.
right? That's what we do here.
Exactly.
So I don't.
Yes, today for Leanna. That was so sweet. We're so happy to have you.
Yes, I'm happy to be here. Anything that spreads awareness is right down my alley. And since we go way back, Leanna, I was so happy to come and do this with you.
I wanted to share that actually, that we know each other. And spoiler alert, and I won't go too into detail, but sometimes in radio, the things that you hear and the bits and the topics, sometimes there's a voice actor or actress that kind of gets involved to help kick off the momentum of the conversation. So Adina has been a creative resource that myself and people that I've worked with in radio have called upon literally in the past to get her take on things and to have her be part of the conversation and maybe help kick off a conversation. So it's interesting because you've always been using your voice, right? And now it's just, it gets to be for something different.
Exactly. It's taken a little fork in the road.
A little twist. So I would love for you to share with the community, you know, your story, and even more so, how you're choosing to live in contribution and joy, and love as often as you can while you can.
Perfect. So the first thing I'll say is that if you see me doing this a lot, the medicine that I'm on gives me so many hot flashes that I just sweat all the time. I'm a wedding planner and I work weddings, and some of the girls who work with me know to have like tissues and paper towels on hand because I'll just like look at them and the sweat will be pouring off of my face, and they know like she needs a minute, like she needs like a refresher. And today I decided to be allergic to the mascara I've been wearing for 2 hours. So I mean for 2 years. So this is just a day in the life of a cancer patient. You know, you don't know the side effect you're going to get. You don't know if something that you've trusted for 2 years is going to betray you, like my favorite It mascara. But it happens. Yeah. So in May of 2019, I was performing a self-exam in the shower just because I always kind of did. I remember distinctly being in high school, sitting on a bike in the gym, and this woman came in and she handed us these little like fake boobs that had peas inside of them, frozen peas. And she said, find the lump. And I just remember sitting there and finding it. And it was actually a pea. It was tiny. And I found it and I moved on and didn't think anything like that would stick with me for the rest of my life. And it did. But the lump that I had found in my breast in the shower was not the size of a pea. It was the size of a walnut. So I thought, that can't be. I never felt it before. But I have been known to be called a hypochondriac in the past, and I own it because now it's saved my life. So I went to the doctor. I was 34 years old. I said, I know I'm not ready for a mammogram yet, according to what insurance says and what the world says, but I need one. Something's going on. And she sent me for a mammogram. That mammogram turned into 3 mammograms, a sonogram, and a conversation with the radiologist. And they said, you know, this is not a fluid-filled cyst, so you need to get a biopsy. Don't wait on that. Had the biopsy, had to wait 5 days, which included 3 events that weekend, my 35th birthday. And then I got the diagnosis that it was, in fact, cancer. Since then, it's just been a whirlwind. I had one of the strongest chemos on the market. I had 28 sessions of radiation, a double mastectomy, a full hysterectomy because I have the BRCA2 gene mutation. And that put me at risk for ovarian cancer as well as a handful of other cancers. And men can get it too, by the way, because my dad is the parent who has BRCA and who passed it to me. So I got a full hysterectomy because I didn't want any risks. And I had my final reconstruction in November of 2019. Took a breath, thought survivorship, that's my next step. And I was kicked right back down when I had my yearly PET scan and they found out that my liver was covered in tumors. Like they took the handful of pepper, went like this, threw it at my liver, and whatever stuck. That's kind of what it looked like to them. So I never got to really experience survivorship. I don't feel like a survivor. A lot of people say like, oh, are you a survivor? And I don't resonate with that title because I feel like I was not a survivor yet. And then as soon as I was, it was taken. And I came right back into the fighting mode. So now we're looking at a little under a year. I just started my second line treatment for metastatic breast cancer because the first treatment did stop working. The tumors we found were growing a couple of days ago. Just at the same time as my mother found out she was diagnosed with breast cancer as well. And she does not have the gene. So to say that I have been kicked to like the dirtiest corner of the street so many times is like it doesn't even cover it. Like every time I feel like I'm drowning and I come up for air and I get a breath, I just get pushed right back down and I have to fight again. So I decided a long time ago that I could either look at what was happening to me as a curse or as like, you know, I don't know what I believe in anymore. Like, as you can see, my arms are covered in bracelets and I just, you know, I'm just stretching and reaching for things wherever I can. But I decided that I could say, I must have kicked somebody's grandma in the street and like let her get hit by a car and didn't help her. And this is why in this life I'm being handed all this. Or I could say, you know what, like I've never been quiet. I've never been one to bow down to a fight. And maybe that's why I'm on this journey, because I'm meant to scream from the rooftops that this is what happened to me and it can happen to you. And I'm not saying this to scare you, but I'm saying this to make you aware that you need to know your body inside and out, what it feels like, what it's normal, so you know what it feels like when it's not normal. And with that, that's how it all started. I just became more and more passionate about getting the word out there. And then when I found out more about metastatic breast cancer, that nobody talks about it. It's almost like this forgotten group of men and women. Yes, men can get it too. And I feel like the world kind of says, oh, well, they're stage 4. So what can we really do for them? What can we really do to help them? You know, admittedly, I thought the same thing previously too. When I would hear somebody was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, I was like, oh my God, like I'm probably going to be hearing about their funeral soon, you know, small-minded. That's what I was, completely small-minded. And now that I'm here, I know I have many years to live. I don't know how many. None of us do. The blissful ignorance of not having to worry about making a will and figuring out where your children will go when and if you pass away and they're still young and your husband's a police officer and his risk of, you know, his mortality risk is kind of in front of his face too. I lost the ability to be blissfully ignorant of all of that. But like I put in one of my Facebook posts recently, I can either go through it twice, worry about it and go through it and think about all the horrible things that may or may not happen and then actually go through those horrible things. Or I can take every second where I don't feel like I'm stuck to a bed or whatever and go out there and speak and live and share and get the word out and raise money, because every dollar that's raised for metastatic breast cancer, depending on where it goes, of course, but it goes to medication that keeps men and women like me living longer. You know, I just started my second line treatment. I don't exactly know how many treatments there are for my subtype, but there's a good handful. And without the research and the funding and the approval of those medications, I mean, my doctor said without medicine, I had 6 months to live, and I'm on month 10. So that right there is, it tells you what this medicine is doing. There may not be a cure. I may not be an old woman warm in her bed like in Titanic, but the medicine gives me a chance to see milestones in my family's life. So that's the story in a nutshell.
There's so much that we get to unpack within all of this. I love your message of knowing and trusting your body. I think that that's so important. You know, I know within this group here that a lot of us have experiences where we've been able to say and advocate for ourselves, like, no, I know my body, I live in it every day, and I know what feels right and what doesn't feel right. And really, you know, so many things about you strike me and so many others. And really, it was what you shared yesterday, which some of you just brought up here, where not, you know, about worrying twice. And I would love for you to kind of just repeat that again for some people. And then about your ability to identify your triggers, and because of your awareness, what that has felt like for you. And in that, how you overcome that, because we all have different triggers in our lives, right? And they can either really set us back, or we could spend some time in it and then move out of it. So I would love to hear how those tools support you, and really that they're, in my experience at least, and maybe you'll agree, it's a choice. It's a conscious choice.
So every day we're on this earth is a choice. Every day. Whether it's what grocery store am I going to go to today? What am I going to make for dinner? Or how am I going to make today? You know, my husband, love him to death, but he has a problem with road rage. And I'm not going to lie. Like, I call people Karens and worse words when I'm stuck in traffic and somebody's not getting me where I need to be because they're in the left lane and they're doing 70 or they're doing 40 and I need to do 70. But I remind myself it's just traffic, you know, or if I'm stuck in traffic because there's an accident, I remind myself, God help that family because I'm not in the accident car. These are the choices that I find myself making every single day. Is it could be worse. There could be something else. There could, you know, I've seen worse. I've had worse. I've been in a situation where I said, how can this get worse? And it gets worse. So now I'm in the mindset of it's okay today. I see a therapist once a week and she reminds me, be where your feet are. Where, like, put your feet down, be grounded with where you are. You're okay. Everything's okay. So I have to make that choice to be okay. Because in reality, things are not okay. Things inside my body that you don't see, things that would blow the mind of people who, when I pull into a handicap spot at BJ's and they want to know why this girl who's jumping out of the front seat really needs his handicap sticker. There are things that are terribly scary going on in my life. So my choice is to acknowledge that it's there, but not let it hold me down. So that quote, I wish I knew exactly what it was. I'm going to have to post it and I'll tag you in it later today. But in essence, it was about, we all go through hard things. We'll go through things that make us nervous and that we think about. We could either go through it once when we're going through it, or we can go through it twice. The time we waste worrying and being sad and devastated, and then when it actually happens. And in most cases, we worry about it more than we actually need to, because it's not actually as scary as our minds make us think it is. Not in all situations, but in many. So I, again, made the choice to say, I'm not going to worry about that today. I have 2 children, and I'm going to do fun things with them, and I'm going to make memories with them. And maybe I will be here to see them get married and have their first, their mother's son dance. And I hope for that. And I yearn for that. And I live for that. But I'm not going to sit here thinking about how I might not be here for that, because I could be spending time with them instead. There are better things I could be doing.
How did you get to that space, Adina? Was it something that kind of just like naturally occurred for you, where you're like, okay, I'm at choice here, and I could either invest my energy into, forwarding things, or things that are going to keep me in fear and paralyzed? Was it, like what, how did you get to that point where you said, I get to choose here, and this is what I choose?
I mean, I feel like I've kind of always been that way. I was a bit of a depressed child. Middle school was rough. And I found myself caught in the moment a lot, where I was like, this is the worst day ever. And prior to cancer, I was a bit of a complainer about lots of things. I look back at some of the memories that pop up on my Facebook from like 4 years ago, and I'm like, oh, how did I even write that? Like, that shirt that says like, everything hurts and I'm dying. Mm-hmm. Like, I was the epitome of that. I was like, oh my God, like, this is the worst day ever. And then the worst day ever actually came. Mm-hmm. And I was like, holy shit, holy crap.
That's okay.
This is the worst. Stubbing my toe and being late for work, that was not the worst. Relatively, I thought that was the worst, but no, there are worse things. So it kind of like flipped a switch when cancer happened for me. And I was like, ooh, like, there are actually really horrible things that go on in this world outside of cancer as well. And I took on 2 mentalities that I didn't know I had. That was one of them. And the second one was this like incredible force of strength, where I was just like, I want a double mastectomy. I want the toughest chemo. I want all the radiation. I want a full hysterectomy. I want the most aggressive treatment. Sometimes I surprised myself with how I was just like, no, give me more. I can take more. I want more. Give me more. It's fine. Like, I can handle it. I would say things, and it was almost like from old school when Will Ferrell is giving that thing at the debate and he goes, what happened? I blacked out. Like, I feel like that's my life sometimes, where like I say and do things and I'm like, what just happened? It's like, how did that happen? And I truly feel, again, I don't know where my beliefs are right now. I don't know if it's God. I don't know if it's universe. I don't know if it's my feminine energy. I have no idea what it is. I don't even know what I think it is. But something inside of me takes over, and it just allows me to push forward. And something like newer is this trigger thing. If things would trigger me, I was never the most confrontational person. And I would kind of say, like, you know what, like, that person must be having a bad day who said something like rude or nasty, so I'm going to let it go. But now I feel like, we only have so much time in this world to be brutally honest. And I hate fake people. I despise Instagram accounts where people only show the best in their lives, and then other people have to compare themselves to that. So my goal now is to keep it real in every situation. One, it's good for my health, because admitting toxicities, getting rid of them, sharing them with the world, and finding that other people feel the same way and can relate and have been just waiting for somebody to touch on that so they felt like they weren't alone, that's been good for me. And now I see from all of the feedback from you guys and from some other people that it's also putting out this light into the world, where it's like, she said that and she's okay, so I can okay. So yes, I came upon the breast cancer walk in Brooklyn yesterday, a walk that I spoke at in 2019 and ripped my wig off on stage in front of, I don't know how many people, maybe 1,000 people, maybe 500 people, but And I felt empowered that day. And yesterday, I felt less than empowered because, one, I feel like breast cancer follows me everywhere I go. Yes, it's October. Yes, it's awareness. It's not negativity towards breast cancer, but I have a hard time remembering who I am without cancer because it's become such an important part of my life. It's become such a big thing of who I am. And yesterday we pull up to my son's hockey game at like 7 a.m., which I'm not a morning person. So that in itself was enough. But right in the parking lot is the breast cancer walk, and it's pink ribbons everywhere. And as you can see from the shirt, metastatic is more than just pink. Pink is great. Pink is not the problem. That's what a great group, the Breasties, talks about. Pink is not the problem. It's what people are doing with the pink, or who's marketing from the pink, or who's profiting from the pink and not actually raising awareness, raising money. That's a whole other topic. But I told my husband I wanted to take a walk around and kind of meet some of the vendors, and, you know, because my older son was with me, and just to show him, like, look, a lot of people here had breast cancer. Look how good they look. And I was asked multiple times, are you a survivor? Are you a survivor? And like I talked about, I don't resonate with that word survivor because I'm most likely not going to survive metastatic breast cancer. But none of us survive this world anyway, so, you know, it's okay. But I was triggered, and I allowed myself to feel triggered. And I said to my husband, like, there's a lot of pink here. There's a lot of people who don't have breast cancer anymore because they beat it. There's a lot of people who are not in treatment anymore. And I needed to take a step back. So I literally just stood there for a second, and I thought, how do I make this better? How do I fix this for me? You know, everybody else here is part of a whole. They're doing something for breast cancer as a whole, but they're also doing something for themselves. They're doing something, self-care, walking heals them, being a part of a community heals them. So I said, it's time for me to be selfish right in this moment and do something for me that takes this trigger away and changes the course of today, of right now. And I heard the woman on the microphone shouting out people, 7-year survivor, 10-year survivor. I go, she needs to know my story. She needs to know that there might be other women here who didn't beat it, aren't beating it, lost somebody to metastatic breast cancer. Because if you lose someone to cancer, if you lose someone to breast cancer, 99% of the time it's metastatic. It's stage 4. There are other things, but you don't die from stage 2 cancer or breast cancer directly, right? It's when it spreads around your body that it takes your life. So I went right up to her while my 2 men, my husband and my older son, Luca, kind of went like, what is she doing now? Like, she just doesn't shut up. And I said to the woman, I said, would you mind making an announcement for women who are fighting metastatic breast cancer like me so that we feel heard and seen as well? She goes, oh my God, of course. How long have you been fighting? How old are you? Tell me your story. And I gave her a snippet, and she said it out onto the microphone, and people started clapping, and she gave me a hug, and I had a great conversation with one of the volunteers. And I said, I feel so good now because I know that maybe one other person in that crowd has metastatic and didn't want to say anything and was feeling triggered. And she may feel better now. I know I feel better. So if not anybody else in that crowd felt better, I know I felt better. And I was able to kind of walk around Coney Island and see the pink. And somebody after that asked me, are you a survivor? And I said, sort of, yeah, sort of. So it just kind of clarified. And I just feel like it's a form of self-care when you can identify the things that trigger you. And there's 4 women, including me, that I'm looking at into my phone right now. And we all have different stories, different backgrounds, different triggers. Your trigger, my trigger, we may have some in common, we may have none in common, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what somebody's story is. It doesn't matter what their trigger is. All that matters is that it's valid and it's a trigger, and you should be allowed to shout from the rooftops what that trigger is without being judged. I was worried that I would be judged a little bit, especially from my friends who have beaten breast cancer. And, you know, that's like a solace for them and a home for them. But I've been met with nothing but appreciation, and nobody was judging me or feeling like I was talking down about them, because life is such a personal journey that if you can't own up to who you are, then what's the point of even being an individual in this world of a bajillion people.
I love.
Adina, I just want to offer real quick, and then sorry, April, is that, and I say this to Cynthia, I say this to April, and I'll say this to you, that, and you kind of touched on it, by you showing up as yourself, imperfect, but beautifully, authentically you create a space for other people to step into themselves and feel comfortable in the skin they're in. And so what you're doing, what you've been doing, what you're doing right now, what you'll continue to do by sharing is a form of self-care for yourself, but it also creates a space for so many other people to feel seen and heard.
That's awesome.
So April, you were going to say.
Basically what you just said, but also just acknowledge you. Like, we're obviously courageous in creation here, right? Like, so we encourage people to use their voice, because a lot of the time we created this forum because we felt unseen, we felt unheard, until we shifted our perspective and realized that's, I call them ladies in the attic talk. Like, those bitches never shut up. So we bear here at Courageous in Creation. So say what you got to say. Sometimes it's impactful. But what I love about what you did for yourself is you brought an awareness, but you did it in a way that you were not looking at it as, oh, look at me. No, you looked at it as, let's bring an empowerment into the knowledge that there's more than what this rah pink October is breast cancer month. Every single one of us on this call, and probably thousands of other people that will look at this, have had personal or friendships, professional people that have been affected by breast cancer. So it's a real thing. What I love, though, for you is that you utilize your voice as a forum and to build an awareness to create a different outcome. A lot of the times we get stuck in a perception that we build, and we create a story that's very untrue. And what I find very refreshing is that you aren't willing, with the time that you have, you've kind of been like, you know what, let's just, I said this earlier this morning to these guys, let's just like sweep up all the bullshit and like let's focus in on what really matters here, right? Like let's focus in on relationships. Let's focus in on creating an awareness and an empowerment situation. What brought you, like, because I heard you speak of, this is not how I was, I was like a Debbie Downer, a negative Nancy, let's focus in on all of this. What shifted within you to be able to create that kind of empowerment within and for others? Because you're a stand. I mean, you are an absolute stand for yourself, but for a huge community of women and men.
Well, first of all, thank you for saying that, because even though I do put myself out there, I still have moments where I'm like, I hope that nobody thinks that I'm just like, hey, everyone, look at me. Like, I want to be on TV, and I like to be like, I like to have my face on magazines, and like that's like the, like my ego, I guess, kind of saying to you, like, people think that you're trying to be this. And, I had one negative comment in all, like, almost 3 years that I've had breast cancer, somebody kind of bringing to my attention, like, like, you just like the spotlight. And I was like, guy, if that's how you feel, like, I don't need your presence anywhere near me, because if I could go back in time and, like, I don't know, figure out that I might have cancer and have a prophylactic mastectomy and avoid all of this and never have anybody see my face anywhere, like, I would choose that. When I was getting donations from people when I was first diagnosed, and people were sending food to my house, and I was like, this is amazing, but I wish I didn't need this. So for you, all of you, to validate the fact that you see that this is not a ploy to, like, become famous or something ridiculous that I sometimes feel like people might think, that means more to me than you could ever know. And I kind of feel like, there wasn't anything that specifically flipped a switch for me between saying, like, when I was a waitress, like, oh, these customers are so annoying, like they won't leave me alone, to like, no, like the world is all like hearts and rainbows and we can make our own choice and we can figure it out, like bordering on the woo-woo side, you know, like there was nothing there that kind of did that for me, except that I went out there and I said it. And the first time I posted something about my breast cancer, I was like, ugh, like, what are people going to think of this? Are they going to be afraid to talk to me? Are they going to be afraid to say the wrong thing? But I did it. I put it out there and it had, some positive, mostly positive feedback. So I did it again and I did it again. And then it just became something that felt good and felt natural. So, I mean, I guess what I would say to anybody out there who's dealing with anything, or even not dealing with something, who's thinking about doing something, who has a passion and is afraid to put it out there and thinks like, what is the reception going to be from everybody, is just freaking do it. Like, just do it. Like if I didn't speak up, I would be holding all of these emotions inside. I don't know if I'd have a creative outlet. I don't know what my journey would be right now. All I know is that coming on here and talking to all of you and putting the word out there with whatever news outlet or whoever's willing to listen to me makes me feel like I'm changing the world, whether I am or not. It makes me feel good. It makes people around me feel good. And if I hadn't taken that first step, which may or may not have been me pulling my wig off at the speech, I'll tell you that, like, because that was when I think of defining moments, because I had in my speech, maybe pull off wig here, and I was kind of like, okay, like, you guys won't get the point that I'm a sick cancer patient with this wig down to like underneath my fake boobs, like you guys won't get it, so like let me just pull it off, and here we go. You just sometimes have to say, yeah, this is scary as shit. This is the most terrifying thing I've ever thought of doing in my life. But I'm just going to do it and see what happens. I'm just going to take that leap. I still can't believe sometimes that people want to hear what I have to say, including today. But in my heart and in my body, I feel that it's right. I don't feel tension. I don't feel stress. I really just feel like, something is flowing through me, and like, this is how it's supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
So
again,
much,
not
yes.
crying. My eyes are burning from mascara.
First of all, again, with the lady, like, I love you. Just everything about you. I think you're super cool. I'm like checking out your tie-dye shirt, your hair, everything that you're about. You just exude that kind of, just this energy that's really ridiculously yummy and awesome and authentic. So thank you. And now, like April said, we really get to see you where we knew Leanna, and you had been a part of each other's lives in some capacity. What I'm interested in is there's such, and you've shared it, pretty much, there's such a roller coaster to everything. And what I hear a lot of you saying, one, I love that you share about therapy, because I feel like people are hard to seek support and sit and receive it and move through maybe in a more powerful way as a result of it. But I know there's also such an importance in advocating for yourself. So I'm hearing you advocating for yourself in just the world, advocating for yourself when it comes to your treatments. And I think people get like bumped up against a lot within that. They're going through things, anything in life, really. Can you talk about maybe just moving through that? And I'm sure there's things like where people have given you suggestions, even medical professionals, where you're like, nope, this is the direction I'm taking. This is the direction I know for myself. Can you speak to that a little bit? Because,
Of course.
yeah, I think people really bump up against that in life.
So first, therapy is life, because I'm not a very private person, but I'm also not like a very emotional person. Like when I was first diagnosed with breast cancer in 2019, I wouldn't even let my mom hug me because she would cry. And I was like, I can't. Like, that's still something that I'm working on, is the fact that like showing emotion is uncomfortable for me, but neither here nor there. and speaking to a therapist has been able to get me through saying, you know what, I do have something going on where I can't face emotion, but that's okay because this is all part of my journey and we're going to work on that. It gives me an unbiased person to talk about. You know, I'm in my sessions and she says to me, like, say to me what you can't say to the rest of the world, which isn't much because I kind of share every little part about me and how I'm feeling and all of that. But like, if there's something that, you know, was in my head today and I held it back from saying it to a friend, I'm able to say it. It's just a space where I'm safe and I'm comfortable and I'm not crazy for seeing her. I know that that's kind of like the negative connotation with therapy is that like, oh, you're speaking to someone, you're crazy. You need help. No, there's nothing wrong with being in check with your mental health. There's nothing wrong with knowing that you need a little something extra. I think everybody would benefit from therapy. And I could talk for hours about how I think our first responders need to be put in an area where they can have therapy or should have therapy and not be looked down upon it and have their, you know, question their mentality when they seek help. I won't even go there. But therapy has become such an important part of my life that I don't know how I would be getting through it without this. You know, a lot of the things that come out of my mouth, a lot of the ways that I say things come directly from my therapist. You know, be where you are, feet on the ground. She resonates with me and I'm able to share that message with other people. So therapy is life for me, for sure. In terms of advocacy, it's the craziest thing for me because, like I said before, like I never liked confrontation. Advocating for myself was always like, oh, you know what? Like, that's the way they want to do it. Like, I'll just do it. That's fine. You know, I was not a submissive person, but at the same time, I was kind of just like, that way's fine too. Like, whatever. And it was like a gut feeling. I can't explain it. But when I found that lump in the shower, and it must have been there for a while because it was 3 centimeters, the size of a walnut, something like automatically like tinged in the back of my head. I was like, I need to act on this. And when I was validated in a way that I wish I was never validated, but I was validated that it was cancer and that I saved my own life, I was like, I did that. I did that. I saved my own life. I went against insurance. I went against what the world says about women under 35. And I was right. And that just kind of like played a part in all of my acts and everything to follow. It was, you know, I said, I get to make this choice for my body. I want to have a mastectomy. Before I even knew I had the BRCA gene and that was the better choice for me, I said, no, this is what I'm doing. The hysterectomy that I had, you know, it's only recommended for women with BRCA to have their fallopian tubes and ovaries removed. You don't need to touch anything else. And I said, no. I said, at this point, I have my 2 children. I do not like that the choice was made for me that I can't have any more because that should have been my choice as a mom and a wife and a woman. Well, our choice, myself and my husband, but, you know, my body. So my choice. And all the doctors said to me, you don't need to have the rest taken out. You know, you will be just fine. It's the ovary suppression we have to worry about. It's the fallopian tube cancer that's BRCA. And I just said, no. I just said, no. I was like, no, like, this is my body. I heard the pros and the cons. Unless you have a distinct reason why I cannot have this surgery that I want, this is what I want. They found precancerous cells in my uterus. And again, it was just one of those things where I was like, no, like, this doesn't feel right to me. So the first thing I can say is your gut is a powerful, powerful thing. I mean, they say mother's intuition, they say women's intuition, they say whatever. I think it spans more than just women. It's definitely men too, but there's something in your gut. It's like you said, the ladies in the attic, like sometimes they're bitching and sometimes they're like, hello, like, are you paying attention? Like, this is something like you need, you know, it could be a great thing. It could be an opportunity that you would have missed. It could be anything. But for me, I mean, it was always just like something was there and I was like, I can't sleep. Like, this is not right. And I've learned that you don't have to be afraid to stand up for yourself. In fact, you should be afraid of not standing up for yourself, because by just listening to what the professionals say, yes, they're doctors, I'm not. They're insurance companies, I'm not. I do not have the training, I do not have the understanding, I do not have the whole picture that they have. But I know me, and I know what I'm feeling inside, and I know that if I don't stand up for myself, who will? You know, not that my husband wouldn't want to, my mother and father wouldn't want to, my friends wouldn't want to, but they don't know what I'm feeling. You know, everybody said to me, they're like, why are you really pushing for this hysterectomy? Like, what's the difference? And I was like, I don't know, because this is what I feel that I should have, and this is what feels right to me. And I don't know, maybe we'll find a reason, maybe we won't, but this is what feels right to me. And then when I came back with the precancer cells in my uterus, everybody was kind of like, oh, all right. And even if it didn't, like, something like that, I don't need validation for other people, because I knew that it was the right decision for me. I knew that this was the course of action that I needed to take. I heard the ladies in my belly, and it ended up being a really, really good decision for me. Now, there are some people out there who say, oh, well, you had that surgery and then your cancer came back. Like, is it because you opened your body up and now, I don't know, bro. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know why people even have to say that to somebody. It's like telling a bride that something went wrong on her wedding day. Like, why do you have to tell people these things? People just feel compelled to, like, bring you down and say these things to you. But in my heart, in my mind, when I rest my pillow on the head, when I rest my head on my pillow at the end of the day, I know that I made the right decision for me, right or wrong. It was right for me. It felt good for me. And that's just the biggest thing I've learned throughout this journey, is that, you know, the professionals know a lot, but they don't know everything. And you have to speak up. You have to, because if you don't, you become the masses and you follow through. And at the end of your life, whenever that is, you need to be at peace with the decisions that you made and know that you had a say in your own life. And cancer or no cancer, that's been like the biggest thing for me, is that I have had a say in my own decisions, in my own life. And even though the cancer came back, I have no regrets, because every decision that I made in early stage cancer was aggressive. It was my choice. It was, you know, my path and my journey. And I can say I feel good about the decisions that I made, regardless of what this outcome was. And that's half the battle.
I love that. I actually would love for you, because we talk about here people getting stuck all the time, because, you know, it's that mental game we play all the time. And you really have found that poetic pause to really center in and listen to what's going on within yourself, because I personally believe that this is just a vessel. We're more than just a body, and we do go on past this lifetime. I don't know what you believe or what you don't believe, and I know that you're on a journey to figure that out just based on what you've shared so far.
Yep.
But I would love for you to share maybe just some tidbits, because we're all about what you are. Like, you have the epitome to feel the feels, right?
Yeah.
Process. But then what shifts for you is you actually act on your choice. So putting that action in. Can you offer over to the Courageous in Creation community maybe some tools that are in your personal toolbox for you to be able to offer over to people that are feeling stuck? Obviously, everyone's situation and story is their own individual, but we would love to hear from you what's in your personal toolbox.
Sure. So I'm trying to put myself inside the shoes of somebody who's the complete opposite of me, to figure out how the tools that I use will make sense for them, for everybody, no matter what they're feeling. So the only way I can think of that is somebody who is a private person and doesn't like to talk about what's going on with them, because that's probably the only thing I can't relate to. You know, like the amount of times people have told me, like, enough, like, shut up, is it's a lot. We'll just say it's a lot. So I think that, you know, each person's toolbox has to be specified for them. And what is in my toolbox may not work for somebody else, but there's always a way to take what somebody else has and adjust it so that it fits in your life. So the one thing I can say is life is scary. There are really scary things like stage 4 cancer. There are not so scary things like telling someone you love them. I mean, that is terribly scary because you don't know if they love you. Whatever. That could be scary too. But you have to just take that chance. Take the chance, because what's the worst that can happen? You know, somebody doesn't love you back. Somebody thinks that you're looking for the spotlight. Somebody doesn't like what you have to offer. Rejection is okay. Rejection is fine, because it's not about you. It's about them. So remember that if you're bringing positivity, if you're bringing light, if you feel good inside about what you are doing, that's all you have to worry about. Because anybody who's a hater, anybody who doesn't reciprocate, anybody who doesn't see things your way, that is not about you. That is 100% about them. You will find your people, you will find your niche, you will find the ones that accept you and that love you. And it's not going to be everybody. And you don't want it to be everybody. You want it to be the people that are really authentically like you and feel the same things. You know, getting rid of toxicity is definitely a tool. That can mean a million things for a million different people. Maybe it's people. Maybe it's habits. For me, getting rid of toxicity was just not being afraid of what the reaction will be. You know, you just have to take a breath, remind yourself who the fuck you are, and just move forward and do what feels right, whatever that means.
Thank you.
Adina, I do want to just ask how this has impacted your family and your boys. And, you know, I saw you on the news the other day and you're putting together the metastatic breast cancer ribbons that have the 3 colors, not just the pink. Right. And, you know, they're young boys. And so they're, I don't want to do this, literally, which is so real, right? So how, and you had mentioned that at the walk, how your oldest son, you know, you said, like, look at all of these people, they're here, you know. So how do you have those conversations with a child? And how, just,
there's no words. When it comes to this part, there's just no words, because how do you tell a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old that their entire world may not be in their worlds for as long as they think? You can't. There are no words for something like that. So, you know, my husband and I are very different. He's very much like, don't bring it up. Don't bring it up. And I'm the opposite. I'm like, no, we need to talk about it. I need to know what they're feeling. So for starters, finding a middle ground between his feelings and my feelings has been extremely difficult. Because, you know, what feels right to him is to keep things inside and not share. And that's fine, because that's his journey and that's how he feels best. But I said to him, I go, listen, this is your journey as, you know, me being your wife. I said, but this is also more my journey, and I need to have conversations with them about what's going on. I don't need to scare them. They don't exactly realize that people die from cancer. And I'm really okay with that. Like, that's something that if it comes up, if somebody at school says, oh, my grandma died of breast cancer, and they come home and say, like, you know, you can die from this, I will cross that bridge when that day comes. And I will be as honest as possible. And that's the whole thing. Kids are not stupid. They may not be adults. They may not be able to process things, but they're not dumb. And they know when they're lying to you, whether it's about, you know, is that car in the closet that I found mine, or, you know, like, are you going to die from breast cancer? Like, it doesn't matter. They can see right through you. They can tell when you're being authentic. You know, kids and dogs, that's what they always say. If the kids and the dogs don't like you, then you're probably not a good person, because they can sense all of that. So my kids know very much about what's going on with me, because I've tried to be a part of their lives throughout the whole process. So when I had my surgery, they knew, all right, mommy has to have surgery. She has cancer in her boobs. What does that mean? That means that there's something in there that's trying to get mommy and hurt her. So mommy has to be stronger than the cancer and get it out. You know, I feel like I dreamed this because I can't find the video on YouTube anymore, but there was a video when I was first diagnosed of a Pac-Man eating the cancer cells, and it ate good cells and bad cells. And when it eats the good cells, like your hair follicles and your stomach lining and whatever, that's why mommies have belly aches, because the Pac-Man, the chemo, doesn't realize the difference between good and bad cells. So it eats the hair cells and my hair falls out. And it eats the belly cells and my belly hurts. But it also eats the cancer. And my older son, my younger son was only 3 at the time, but my older son, Luca, he was able to see it in a way that made sense to him. And when I started to lose my hair, I said to him, look, mommy's hair is falling out. And he goes, that means the medicine is working. That's all it meant to him. It did not mean mommy's going through chemo and it's scary and she feels terrible and she's sad because she's losing her hair. He said, I saw the video. The Pac-Man ate the hair cells. The hair fell out. The medicine is working. My mom is getting better. So we just kind of found avenues like that kind of made them understand what was happening to a point. But it wasn't oversharing to the point where they really understood what was going on, you know, and that's kind of still to this day how we do it with the boys. You know, now they're 7 and 5. So my 7-year-old is very inquisitive. He likes to ask a lot of questions. So he's kind of like, why do you have to go to the doctor again today? Like, why do you have to go? Like, why do you have one round boob and one square boob? Like, why is this happening? And I explain it to him the best way that I can. Mommy has cancer. It's in, you know, other parts of her body, and it's scary and it's hard, and mommy doesn't feel good some days. But it's okay because mommy is strong. And today, mommy feels good. Today, mommy can give you hugs. Today, mommy can go to the hockey game. Today, mommy can walk around. And that's what they focus on. You know, I mean, they're kids and they're boys. They're monsters. It's what can you do for me today? You know, some days I can't do much. Some days we're playing tic-tac-toe and they're sitting with me on the couch because, you know, the medicine's making me tired or the tissue expander is really hurting or whatever it is. But they live in the moment and they see. I actually had this conversation with my mom the other day. I said, you know, I wonder what their lives would be like if I didn't have cancer, because so much of their little lives revolves around mommy having cancer. And I feel so guilty about that because it's not fair to them. You know, what else would be taking up all of this time? Maybe it would be more sports. Maybe it would be more play dates. Maybe it would be, you know, not knowing that something like cancer existed in the world. But I can't change that. That's the journey that my family has been put on. I can't change the fact that my kids know about cancer at an early age. But again, I tell myself, what can I change? What can I affect? What actions can I take today that will change the course for them? And I can only hope that, you know, whenever the time comes that this disease does take my life, maybe in 100 years, that might not be long enough, but I'll take 100, that they know, you know, this is what my mom went through. I can't believe she didn't, you know, let us know how bad it was. I can't believe she still came to our hockey games. And like, I'm just trying to live in the moment, not deny it, but also allow life to go on as normal as possible for as long as it can. And they're so great. They're just kind of like, oh, I can't jump on you because your boob hurts. I'm like, yep. They're like, can I see your boob again? And I'm like, yeah, okay. Like, trying to make it real, but like at the same time, I'm like, God, like, no. So
boundaries are okay too.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, it's definitely something I'm still wrapping my head around. You know, like you said, I'm not perfect in any way, shape, or form. But we're trying it out. You know, there are some days where I feel like I've spoken too much, and you could see it in Luca's face. And I talk a lot about Luca just because Lorenzo is still 5 and he's still kind of just like, okay, mom, like whatever. but you can see maybe I said a little too much and it starts to affect him and I have to remind myself to rein it in. But it's just a learning process every day. You know, it's what can I say to them that will resonate? I mean, look, yesterday we went to the walk and I said to Luca, here's a flag that they're going to put in the ground in front of Coney Island Hospital. It was a pink flag. I said, you get to write something to mommy on it. Like, would you write something for mommy? He's like, okay. And he just like it was him writing his name on a school paper. He wrote, my mom is a strong person. And then he made like 3 ribbons and wrote, I love you on the bottom. He's like, here you go. And I'm like, oh, thanks. And like in the car ride home, I was like, what made him say that? What made him say mom is a strong person? What made, like, where is this coming from? I don't know if it's just because that's what people say and he hears, or if it's what he really feels inside. But he's smart. And things are going on in there. And, you know, as long as he's not afraid of me and as long as I can tell he's not hiding anything from me, then I think, you know, we're doing an okay job.
Adina, can you share a little bit about the specific organization that you advocate kind of for as when it comes to being able to provide support for people as long as possible with metastatic breast cancer?
Absolutely. So I just want to make sure I say this up front. At this point, things may change, but at this point, I do not have any affiliation to MediViber. I do not work for them. I am not yet a volunteer advocate. So everything that I'm saying about MediViber is because I truly, honestly believe in it. I resonate with it and it feels good to talk about them. So MediViber is an organization that was created for men and women with breast cancer by men and women with breast cancer or with breast cancer, metastatic breast cancer in their family. They've made it their mission that 100% of the proceeds that are donated to them go directly towards funding for research grants. And from these research grants, new medication is formed. It takes about $1 billion in 8 to 10 years for a medication to go from research and finding it through the phases of clinical trial and to make it to the market where it's FDA approved and people can take it without being considered on a clinical trial. So the medication that I was just on for 9 months only made it to the market 3 years ago. And if I didn't have that medication, you know, 9 months is not a terribly long time. But when you're told without medicine, you're only given 6 months, and then you take a medication and you get 9 months out of it, you feel lucky. I wasn't feeling so lucky the other day when I found out it wasn't working. I was feeling pretty shitty, to be honest. But now that I can kind of sit back and look at it, you know, that was 3 extra months that I wouldn't have had, you know, essentially if I wasn't on medication. Mm-hmm. But that medicine only made its way to the market 3 years ago. And think about how many more medicines are right on the cusp of that, are in phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 clinical trials, are working on women. So when someone decides to donate to MediViber, they can feel good knowing that if they donate $5 is going directly towards research. You are literally putting years on my life. You donate 30 cents, 10 cents, 5 cents, $5,000, it does not matter. That denomination, you can look at me as a real person, not just an organization, and say, you know what? I changed her life today. I donated to research for medicines that are keeping her alive longer. Because listen, does everybody want a cure for cancer? For every cancer, childhood cancer, prostate cancer, breast cancer, metastatic breast cancer? Of course. Everybody hates cancer, maybe not the pharmaceutical companies, but aside from the money-making aspect of cancer, people hate it. Celebrities can't avoid it. Millionaires, billionaires can't avoid it. It's just something that we all, it brings the entire globe together, and we all, you know, have a collective hate for cancer. So we all want to see it eradicated, but finding a cure is something that it's a big ask. I'll just put it that way. It's a big ask. Not to get too in depth onto why, but just in the metastatic breast cancer community, just in the breast cancer community, there's multiple types of breast cancer. There's multiple subtypes. Is it estrogen fed? Is it this? Is it that? Things that you would never even know about. And if you're sitting here watching and you don't know anything about breast cancer, you're probably like, what is she talking about? And that's kind of the point. Finding a cure for everyone is impossible because you have to find a cure for everyone individually. So do I like the phase, let's find a cure? the phrase that let's find a cure. I mean, yeah, because I would love to find a cure. But I'm not asking for a cure. I'm asking for more medicines that give me more time on this earth, that give men and women with metastatic breast cancer more time. You know, look at HIV and AIDS. When that came out, people were like, well, you got it, you're done. Like, sorry. People were written off in the same way that people with stage 4 metastatic breast cancer are still sort of being written off as like, well, she's past the point of hope. And, you know, and look at what's happened in the past. I was going to say 20 years, but like the 80s to now is not 20 years, but I still will pretend it's 20 years because it feels better in my brain. But look at all these years that have gone by, and now people are living with HIV and AIDS. People are living with multiple sclerosis. People are living with, I just want to be in that category. I want to be in the category where there's medicines out there that extend my life. And I could say, yeah, I have metastatic breast cancer. I'm living with it. Diabetes. You live with diabetes. You take medicine, you watch this, you watch that, you're cautious. That's what I'm hoping for. And with the research, every new medication that comes out gives a certain subtype more time. So every dollar equals more time. And they're amazing.
I wish we had more time with you this morning.
Perfect segue.
We could, yeah, we adore you. We love you. I could talk for hours about that, but I'm going to just thank you, and thank you for being who you are, and for your grace and your voice. And we would love to, thank you for including us on your journey with the way that you share, and for being so courageous, so courageous.
Thank you. And thank you for having me. This is just another avenue where you know that you are part of my self-care, and you make me feel good. And I can now continue on my day feeling like I've done something for myself, for the world, for the three of you, for whoever listened in. And it's just, when I say the cheesy phrase, like, you literally are filling up my heart, you're filling my soul, like that's exactly what this is doing. So thank you for this.
Our cups runneth over,
yes.
Dina.
Yeah.
God bless you.
Thank
I
you.
love you. And
I love you guys.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you
on
so
this
much.
Powerful morning.
Happy to be
with
here.
Courageous in Creation. Have a powerful day.
Yes. See you later.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.